What's up guys, Evasion here and welcome back to another video. In today's video, I'm going to be going over the Venthyr Covenant ability for rogues, as well as the Venthyr general ability, and I'm going to talk a little bit about the soulbinds. I'm going to try to cover this video a little bit faster than the previous two, although they weren't that long. I think that this ability is a little bit more impractical in PvP than maybe some of the other ones, so there's not as much to say. Without further ado, let's hop straight into it. Alright, so Flagellation is the new Venthyr Rogue Covenant ability, and basically what this ability does is it costs 20 energy, it's got a 1.5-minute cooldown, and it's going to apply a debuff to the target, and there's actually a conduit that improves the damage of this as well. So it says it deals an extra 153 damage for 5 lashes. Okay, basically you press the button, it's going to lash the target 5 times. So it's going to deal 5 instances of 153 damage. Normally this would only be about 100 in this gear, but I have a conduit that improves it, which I'll hop into in a second here. And basically they last for 20 seconds, and every time we spend a combo point, it's going to lash the target an additional time. So if you use a 5-point eviscerate, it's going to do an additional 5 stacks of this damage. So it actually adds up quite a bit, and it's a pretty fair damage increase on your finishing moves. And then at the very end, if you reactivate it before it goes away, you have 20 seconds to reactivate it, you will gain haste per stack. So if you have 30 stacks, you'll gain 15% haste. This effect isn't actually that good in PvP, at least for subtlety, because of, it kind of does nothing until it's stacked up, but the additional damage you gain on your finishers is quite valuable. Alright, so here's a quick example of Flagellation in action, and you're going to notice whenever I use a finisher, there's going to be a bunch of spam 150s that show up on the target. So given the amount of damage that our finishers are actually doing, maybe around like, say 2,000 to 4,000 damage, gaining an extra 750 every time you use a 5-point finisher really isn't that bad. So we're going to go in here. I'm going to use Blades, which pairs really well with Flagellation as it makes us generate more combo points, and generating more combo points is going to be easier stacks gained of this ability. I'm going to use Cheap Shot, and all of our damage here. We pop Flagellation early so we get it rolling before our finishers. And then I'm going to use Kidney Shot, which you'll actually notice it works with Kidney Shot too, which is really cool. So it doesn't have to be a damaging finisher as long as you're spending combo points. I'm assuming it'll work. I'm actually going to test here real quick if it works with Slice and Dice as well. So there you have it. When you use Slice and Dice, you will gain 5 stacks. The one thing I need to test too is we need to actually, if I don't die here to that dummy, it's the raid dummy. If I use Slice from here, it'll apply the stacks too, which is pretty cool. So I'm assuming the range is probably as far, it says melee range, but I'm assuming it goes with Slice's max range. That's actually kind of interesting. I doubt you'll ever actually finish anybody off with that, but it's kind of a cool thing to have on the side. So I guess final notes on this ability is that if I was going to utilize this ability, I would be using it kind of like Reaping Flames, in the sense that that is when I would press it in the rotation, where you want to get it off early so that the rest of your rotation follows and you're able to use as many stacks as possible. The downside of this ability is that if the opponent reacts before you're able to do anything, it's not really going to do anything for you. And I also don't think it's scary enough that that is the reason why the opponent would react. It might initially freak people out when it's a new ability, but it's also not that scary if they're able to disrupt you in any way. Because if you don't get off like 3 finishers in that short amount of time, you're not really going to gain much ability or much damage from this. And an ability like the Kyrian Covenant ability is going to supply more damage with very, very low effort. Alright, Soulbinds and Covenants. We're going into this shit real fast. Okay. We got 3 trees. Service and Stone, less damage when you're under 40% health, not bad. This tree has 2 potency conduits, which you want for this build, because when you're playing a subtlety, you have 2 conduits. One, when you use Eviscerate and Black Powder, it's going to increase your shadow damage dealt by 8% for 8 seconds. Flagellation is shadow damage, it's going to help the damage with that. The other one, Lashing Scars, straight up increases the damage of those lashes on Flagellation. This is mandatory if you are going to be playing around this ability. So basically any of these that you pick, you want to have 2 potency things to maximize the damage that you are going to gain from that. It's going to increase your burst, and it's not too bad. The other options, not so great. I mean, this is nice to have. It's probably the most notable thing in the entire tree. Gives you an absorb shield equal to 15% of your max health when you use your Door of Shadows. So if you use Door of Shadows to get out, having that shield could be pretty good, especially paired with, I believe, the Cloak in the Shadows one here, which you can shove into this slot right here instead of the Slice heal if you were going to utilize that. Basically, whenever you stealth, you gain a 10% shield. And this is really busted because if you're spam stealthing, it just keeps refreshing as far as I know. There's no internal cooldown on it. And yeah, it's pretty good. Next tree, we got one other thing I want to talk about out of all these trees. The top one's pretty garbage for rogues, but the middle option here, Mad Duke, yeah, Theotar the Mad Duke. Okay, so we got watch the shoes. Whenever you use Door of the Shadows or Door of Shadows, it frees you from roots and snares. This could be really, really good. Having a root break as a rogue, other than having to use Vanish or Cloak of Shadows, could be really crazy, because there's a lot of times I can remember in the past where I may have cloaked in a game where I wasn't a target because I needed to save somebody else, and then, you know, the game goes on another 30 seconds to a minute and they decide, hey, the rogue doesn't have his cooldowns, you know, swap to the rogue and kill him. And having something like this could totally prevent that situation, so that's kind of interesting. But that's all there is really to say about this Covenant tree. I'd say overall, my thoughts on the Venthyr Covenant is that it is probably less practical to play this as a rogue, but for those of you guys that were super hyped to play Venthyr, I think it's doable, and you should consider playing it if that's what you're interested in. But playing something like Kyrian is definitely much easier. But anyway, guys, let me know in the comments below what you think of this video. I tried to run this one down a little bit faster and more precise than the previous videos. So if you thought that was good, let me know. And we will see you guys in the Necrolord video, which I'm going to hop in to making right after this video, actually. Anyway, guys, if you like this video, please be sure to give it a like. Consider subscribing for more Shadowlands content, and we'll see you all again soon.